Type 2 Hero by Mad Nimrod. Chapter 5 Discovering in Danger. All Might stared through the small window into the classroom for one seat. He could see Izuku and could tell the boy had not noticed him. The pro hero saw the boy laughing with some of his classmates, but he saw their smile was smaller than it was when he first met the boy close to a year ago. He could hear the boy had a stutter that was absent in the past. He could also see Izuku's left sleeve hanging limp and empty. Seeing that sleeve hurt his heart more than Midnight's poster tube hurt his head.
"What you did,"
a familiar voice stated,
"was rather hypocritical, Yaki-san."
All Might turned his head in surprise.
Night-Eye, what are you doing here?
He had never expected to see his old sidekick again, let alone see him walking down a UA hallway. The hero stopped in front of All Might, regarding him coolly for a few seconds before holding up the charred notebook 13.
"You signed this,"
Night-Eye stated plainly.
"You saw the meticulous notes he took, saw how utterly brilliant they were. You heard he was quirkless, just like you used to be."
His eyes narrowed.
"You told him no."
All Might started.
I thought it was the right thing."
He looked back into the classroom and continued.
"I saw those notes, and was afraid that if villains learned about them, he and everyone close to him would be a target. I tried directing him to safer careers, anything to keep him and that innocence away from the trauma and horror of our profession. When I saw him charge that villain back then, I was scared for him, but also in awe. In that moment, he reminded me what it meant to be a hero. But he also reminded me of why I became a hero. To protect those who could not defend themselves. People like him. And yet, he still ended up being maimed in defense of another."
Night-Eye admonished. All Might flinched at that, and after a few seconds, Night-Eye sighed.
"I thought you were a fool to disregard my warning in the past, Yagi. I never thought just how foolish you could be."
He walked past All Might, leaving the hero by the door. After going a short distance, he stopped and turned his head.
"I will be training him as Type 2. I know you already chose your successor after Togata turned you down, but try to imagine how great that boy would have been if he was given your quirk instead."
Not even waiting a response, Night-Eye continued walking. All Might was truly alone in the hallway, alone with his thoughts, until the final bell rang to dismiss the students. He quickly ran away, not wanting to be seen by any of the students, especially the boy he failed. School had ended, and Nezu was taking one of his walks around the school. After the incident in the teacher's lounge, the principal needed a calm moment. Walking the empty halls after the day's ended would normally provide that. Normally. As he walked, Nezu happened upon Power Loader. The support course teacher was sitting on a bench in one of the atriums, his helmet on the ground by his feet. Even with his bangs covering his eyes, Nezu could see his fellow teacher had what could only be described as an expression of depressed contemplation. It was quite unusual to see him like this. Nezu plodded over and hopped onto the bench, though Power Loader didn't seem to notice he was there until Nezu patted his leg. "Forgive me, Principal." Power Loader bowed his head. "I didn't see you there." "I am a bit hard to spot sometimes," Nezu chuckled. "However, it was easy for me to spot that you seem to be a bit distressed. May I ask the issue?" "It's the transfer student," Power Loader replied.
The third-year girl from America. I've been giving her the same assignments as everyone else, but...
Is she lagging behind?
No. If anything, she's shooting ahead. Powerloader sighed and put his face in his hands. She's completed every project and assignment in record time, earning top marks for each one. She told me she transferred here so she could get a feel for actually helping heroes, but I'm afraid she'll regret it if I don't figure out some way to actually challenge her.
The teacher sat like that for a few moments, but looked up when he realized Nezu had not responded. Looking at the mammal, he saw Nezu had a contemplative look of his own. Then he smirked and chuckled. Powerloader had long ago learned to fear the chuckling principal. Majima-san, Nezu referred to Powerloader by name. Your dilemma has given me an idea that could solve both your own dilemma as well as mine. Yeah, Powerloader was scared now. As of this morning, Izuku had been a student of UA for 4 days. 4 days into the school year, and Izuku had actual friends. No one cared he was quirkless, and he was going to be a hero. He almost wept with joy these past few days because of this. If one had told him a year ago that this would happen, he wouldn't have believed it. His giddiness had reached the point he was practically skipping down the hallway to May's workshop to grab the new desk she made. She promised it would be better than his first one, so he could only guess what she'd improved. Reaching the workshop, he gave a quick knock on the door. He knew he was the only one who bothered knocking, so May would know to put away any volatile projects before calling him in. Waiting for a response, he smiled and opened the door. As he stepped in, he opened his mouth to say something, only to stop. May was at her workbench with the new desk, and standing on the table next to her was Nezu. That wasn't unexpected. What was unexpected was the other person in the room. He was an incredibly tall man in a white suit standing to the side. His hair was dark green with yellow streaks, his eyes a brilliant yellow. Izuku immediately recognized him as Sir Night-Eye, another pro hero he had idolized. His glower was a bit intimidating, but was nowhere near as hateful as Bakugo's had been. What was more intimidating was the notebook in his hand, which Izuku recognized as Analysis Book 11. Good morning, Midoriya, Nezu greeted. You arrived at a good time. Come. I'd like to introduce you to a fellow Type 2 hero. I'm sure you recognize him. Notebook 3, I believe. Izuku gave a silent nod as he stepped closer.
I've read through your books, young man.
Sir Night-Eye held up the notebook in his hand.
I must admit, I'm genuinely impressed. You seem to have a good head for analysis. Good enough to be a hero, certainly.
Thank you. Izuku bowed his head. I'm glad to have the privilege. Most kids would gladly give an arm and a leg for this chance. He gave a weak chuckle and rubbed his left shoulder. Guess I got my chance at a discount. Night-Eye gave a smirk at the joke.
I see you have your finger on humor, too.
I think that was a bit of a reach, sir.
Really? I guess I'll have to shoulder that embarrassment.
I thought he had a good grip on it. May piped up. Oh my god. Nezu laughed and buried his face in his paws. You guys are gonna get me along swimmingly, I can tell. Your fault for putting us all in the same room, sir. May smirked as she tightened something on her table.
Continuing,
Night-Eye said with a smirk as he walked toward the stuttering youth.
I'm here to help Nezu provide you with additional Type 2 training. Nezu will focus primarily on your analytical skills, along with strategic training. I'll be helping in those fields as well, but with a bigger focus on your physical form. He set his hand on Izuku's head. It's clear you're not a strong individual, so your training will help bolster that. I'll also be training you in the use of smaller weapons, primarily those usable with one hand, given your condition. In any event, I do look forward to working with you and watching your progress.
Which begins this afternoon, for the record. Nezu smiled. You'll be busy all afternoon. Midnight will take time to inform your class. I'll fill you in on the details during lunch. It's done! Mei shouted as she hoisted the walking desk into the air. Mito-chan, come on over! Before Izuku could even move, Mei shot over to him and slapped the desk on his shoulders. To his surprise, the desk seemed even lighter than the previous iteration. Made a few adjustments with your safety in mind, Mei proclaimed as she tapped the wooden part of the desk. Changed the wood to a harder, specially treated wood. The same sort that are used to construct desks for heroes with strength quirks. I bet this could stop one of All Might's fingers, so you can use it as a shield. The pipes for the frames are heat resistant, so any jerks with heat quirks can't use them to burn you. Also comes with a quick release strap right here. Tuck it and it'll just fall off. The biggest addition though, she tapped a button on the side and a small slot opened up, dropping a tiny red vial into Mei's hand. The vial was red and had a small light glowing inside of it. Hatsume? Nezu asked with a frown. Where did you get that? Saw a sample in the lab yesterday, the inventor responded. Fabricated a copy myself. Anyway, Mito-chan, this is an experimental power source UA is devising. They use solar-powered plasma cells for the school's buildings and stuff, but can't implement those in equipment because they release a massive electric shock if they get wet. This little vial can run for almost a decade without dying, and its sole purpose is to send a signal to a few devices, which will be carried by myself, Midnight, and your class president. It will send this signal every 3 seconds. If you ever get in trouble, break the vial. When it breaks... Mei snapped the vial between her fingers, and a second later the tablet on her workbench started beeping loudly. Basically, if we don't receive that signal, our devices will alert us.
You are awfully protective of Midoriya, Night-Eye observed. You have only known him for a few days, correct? Mind telling us why you're so adamant on keeping him safe?
Mei was silent for several seconds. My cousin was a pro hero. This stunned Izuku and surprised Night-Eye. Nezu seemed unaffected, but very little could change him visually. Mei waited a few seconds, letting the news settle, before continuing her explanation while adjusting the desk to fit Izuku's small frame. My cousin used to be a pro hero scouter. He had a similar quirk to mine, only his was a lot stronger. He could count the fingers of someone standing on a mountain 15 kilometers away. He felt his quirk was better suited for spying and watching. He rarely got into a fight himself, and his arrest record was almost non-existent. Then one day villains captured him. They left him in a room for over 2 weeks, occasionally questioning him and testing their quirks on him. The worst part was they'd always begin the torture by flashing bright light into his room, disorienting him. That got to him. She finished working on Izuku's harness, but rested her hands on his shoulders, looking at the floor. When he was rescued, it seemed like he'd be fine. His time in the hospital was peaceful and quiet. When he was released, the media was waiting for him. Their cameras all had flashing lights. Seeing those again, he forgot he was out. He just fell to the ground, begging it to stop. After that, he's had to avoid anything with flashing lights. Anytime he's gotten hit with them, he'd just freeze in his eyes. She lifted her head and looked at Midoriya, tears in her eyes. Your eyes were just like his when we first met. After that explosion, you weren't here. You were back where it happened. She gently rubbed his left shoulder. My cousin was a pro hero, an adult. You? You're 15 years old, Mito-chan. You shouldn't have suffered enough to get eyes like that. That's why I'm helping as much as I am. I want to help you get better, and make sure you don't get worse. The instant she finished her sentence, Izuku pulled the quick-release strap for his desk and pulled her into a tight half-hug. Mei was surprised by the sudden gesture, and slowly hugged back, resting her head on top of his. Izuku himself was silently crying into her shoulder. The pro heroes, to their credit, remained silent through this exchange. Neither of them knew about Izuku's PTSD before this, though Nezu thought it might have been a possibility. And now they both knew Izuku would need more than hero training to get through everything. The majority of the school day was thankfully a calm one for Midoriya. His classmates were all supportive as they had been, with a few geeking out over his new desk. Midnight was normal as ever, though everyone was curious about the abundance of cardboard poster tubes in her classroom. The only thing that could have gone sour that morning was when the class was headed towards Cementos' classroom, when they passed Class 1B on their way to Midnight. The jerk from before, Monoma, looked like he was gonna try something before Asano gave a glare so icy, even Moriboshi felt the chill. The Hero Course student quickly shut his mouth without saying a word. Lunch arrived quickly enough, and Izuku was called to the principal's office soon after it began. Night Eye was there again, and the two older men, well, man and mammal, informed Izuku of what the afternoon would be like. Both Type 2 heroes knew that analyzing quirks on paper was vastly different from analyzing them with their own eyes, so it was decided Izuku would go with Class 1A to the unforeseen simulation joint, to observe their quirks in action and up close. He would do the same with Class 1B the following day. Nezu also pointed out that Izuku would be meeting with someone the following morning, but refused to explain further. Good thing Izuku was patient. However, it was hard to see that patience as he rolled on his ankles in front of the bus that would take him in Class 1A to the USJ. Standing with him was Aizawa, and the two waited for Class 1A to arrive. The teacher looked down at him, and at the small Viridian boy, and couldn't help but think he should have belonged in the hero course in the first place. That first day they met, the boy had sensed Aizawa sneaking up on him. Most pros couldn't do that. Then, he surprised Aizawa further by recognizing him on sight. That level of observation alone put Izuku above most of his current class. Unfortunately, they couldn't do an official transfer due to his physical condition, and they'd need the school therapist to map out his mental condition. So the best he could do is work with Neju in teaching him to be a Type 2. After a few more minutes, the two could hear the approaching students. Izuku smiled and took a step before Aizawa stopped him.
Wait here,
Aizawa stated.
Something you need to hear before you reveal yourself.
With that, Aizawa stepped around the corner and faced his class. Some students were excited, others were calm, and a few were antsy. He waited for them to quiet down before saying what he knew needed to be said.
Before we continue, class, I want to hear your opinion on quirkless people.
This caught the class by surprise, some students looking at each other in confusion. Aizawa could see Izuku have a worried look around the corner of the bus. He knew that, despite his current smiles, Izuku was still worried about a lot of things. This would at least be one thing Aizawa could help with. With all due respect, sir, a tall girl with a black ponytail raised her hand. I don't understand the reason for that question. I mean, why would any of us have a negative opinion of quirkless?
Quirkless people are people, dude,
the excitable redhead declared. And I'm not just saying that because of the
That big girl from Gen Ed scares me.
Yeah,
The tall brown-haired girl waved her arms.
people who think quirkless means worthless are absolute assholes.
A few of her classmates laughed at this announcement, but agreed with the sentiment. Aizawa noticed Izuku's face slowly soften, like he was about to cry. Good answers, Aizawa finally said before waving Izuku over. The one-armed kid walked over next to Aizawa, giving a shy smile and bowing his head. This is Midoriya Izuku, from Class 1C. He will be joining us for this trip. He is quirkless, and the one who wrote those pamphlets you received yesterday morning. That made the class explode with excitement. It made Izuku duck behind Aizawa. The teacher raised his hand before the class could mob the Gen Ed student. Try to keep calm around him, Aizawa defended Izuku. In case you haven't noticed, he hasn't exactly had a good past. He is going to be receiving specialized hero training from the principal himself, which includes analysis. He's already come up with ideas from reading your folders. Now he's coming to see your quirks in action. Everyone on the bus. Yaoyorozu, you sit next to Midoriya because you're the only student I trust not to try anything. Everyone nodded and clambered onto the bus, with Izuku and Momo sitting towards the back. It was a bit of a cute and funny sight seeing them sit side by side, with Izuku's head barely reaching the same level as Momo's shoulders. Soon, the bus started going. Aizawa decided to nap, and the other students started talking among themselves. Izuku might have been excited before, but actually sitting with the Hero Corps students made him nervous again.
So, you wrote those notes on us, kiddo?
The frog girl in the seat in front of Izuku peered over the top towards the boy.
Oh, yes, that was me.
Izuku nodded.
Did you like them? They were awesome,
the brown-haired girl from earlier replied, her head appearing next to the frog girl's.
I never would have thought that way before those notes. Oh, I'm Urarako Ochako. I'm Suyu.
The frog girl raised her hand.
I tend to speak my mind a lot. Gotta ask, did you lose your arm because... That's a rude thing to ask,
Momo interjected.
I'm sure however it happened was an unpleasant experience. It's alright,
Izuku stuttered as he self-consciously rubbed his shoulder.
It happened around a year ago. I'll tell you the story later. Promise. Excuse me. The rest of the bus ride was fairly quiet, with the surrounding girls making small talk with Izuku, bringing a blush to his face. Why was UA filled with pretty girls? After a fair bit of time, the bus came to a stop and Aizawa immediately stood up. Izuku was uncertain if he actually slept on the trip because of that. When the doors opened, Class 1A and Izuku walked off and into the building. Both Izuku and Ochako geeked out upon seeing Hero 13 was there too. Before anyone could really do anything else, however, the hairs on the back of Izuku's neck stood up, as what looked like a black cloud appeared in the middle of the area just beneath the stairs. The other students noticed as well, wondering if this was part of their training. That line of thought was immediately stopped when a literal horde of unpleasant-looking individuals came walking out of the cloud. Villains, Izuku gasped. Alright, y'all. D&D is supposed to start here in a bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this recording here. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and comment it if you haven't already. I really hope you guys like my new VTuber model, and if you have any comments or suggestions for things you would like me to try, please let me know. I reply to every comment, so I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video, and ciao for now.